You'd be amazed. I spoke last night at a state school, SUNY, up in upstate New York, and there were a lot of people there who were turned out who really did care about being against the war. And there's not much when you have no leadership. You got this asshole Hillary who doesn't say anything about the war. When you have no leadership about the war, there's no place to go. So they go wherever there is. There are a lot of people who don't like what's going on. I mean, it's more than just Katrina. But let's go through your questions. Shoot.
A lot of people are, against the war, and a lot of people are really confused because there's sort of this general consensus that we know that the government has this sort of like half-truths and not telling us everything, but there's still this nodding to it, and Rumsfeld can say stuff like, there's no great iceberg under the water, and that, that's just false. But how can we be told this, and why are there no repercussions for these lies? You know what I mean?
Well, because, one of the things is 9/11 scared everybody. 9/11 scared the media. Everybody wanted to support Bush and everybody wanted payback. And so he was able to manipulate and mislead us. And the press went along with it to an extraordinary extent. I mean, if you remember the coverage of the Iraqi war when it began, reporters were embedded. Ted Koppel, who's a good reporter, of Nightline was with one general all the way, and it was all heroic stuff. We took Baghdad. And it turns out, we didn't take Baghdad. It turns out Saddam just retreated to fight a different war, and it turns out we're still fighting the war we started then. So it's for a lot of reasons. But the big one is Bush played the fear card and played the 9/11 card and got away with it. And that's for which I blame my brethren. I mean, my brethren in the news business, we let him get away with it. We didn't let him get away with Katrina because at the same time the White House was saying everything's okay. They were down there and they could see it.
Yeah. And so that head of FEMA got...
yeah, but who cares about him? He's not the real... He's just a functionary,
Right, just like the seven guys in...
You don't think Chertoff or the guy that runs, or the guy at HHS, Levitt, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, are just as responsible? They all are. Yeah. They all. Nobody did anything. They all just... And so
when we chastise those 7 MPs, in Abu Ghraib, and we say they are the ones to blame, and then Bush goes on and says, we are against torture, but really there's this systematic abuse of, Iraqi prisoners, and this sort of thing is going on. Why isn't this being stopped? If the story comes out there, why are we just rolling over?
This is not, in case you haven't noticed, Plato's Republic. Yeah. And things don't always work the way they should. And governments don't always respond. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it tonight, Abu Ghraib, even though I think here I probably should talk about Abu Ghraib because I need to know more about it. If you really started fixing responsibility, where would it stop? It would have to go to the top. Nobody wants to take it there. Nobody wants to take it. Do you not think the president knows what happens in these prisons from the very beginning? We were beating the crap out of people from the very beginning. We have a word we call rendition, which is a 3-syllable word for grabbing people by their hair wherever we want, wherever they are in the world, going into their home at night without a warrant, without a visa, going into countries illegally, secretly with special force troops, grabbing them by their hair, pulling them out of their bed, putting them on an unmarked airplane, flying them to some place not in America, and putting them into a hole where you interrogate them and kill them or not kill them, depending on how you feel about it. Put them somewhere where the sun don't shine. We've been doing that for 3 years.
So did you hear, over this past summer, I picked up a newspaper, and an Italian judge was...
the 13 guys.
Right, yeah. So do you think that that's a step in the right direction, or is that just another case of we are putting out 13 guys to cover up something?
No, the 13 guys were there to grab some people. And for rendition, the 13 guys, there was a lot of interesting stuff about it. One of them is while they were in Italy, and they were in Milan for a little while, they stayed in the very best. They stayed in a hotel it's like the Plaza, the equivalent. I mean, it's one of the great luxury hotels of our time in Milan. It's a beautiful hotel. They ran up, huge expenses. They also, the reason the Italians could track them, this is our SEALs and other CIA people, they never changed cell phones. And even the run-of-the-mill drug dealer, that you get, that goes through 5 cell phones on a deal. because the last thing you want to do is have the police track numbers. So these guys are tracked all the way. It said something about their skill of doing what they did, and also it gave you a sense of how casually we do it. Yeah. It's just something we do all the time. We just grab whoever we want without due process. Yeah. And so I don't know about you, but or where you came from, but my parents came from Europe, and they came to get away from this kind of stuff we're doing all over the world right now. They came from Eastern Europe. They came to get away from this kind of crap.
But so I heard you talking at the University of Illinois, and you were talking about in early 2003 you knew about these abuses against the.
No, what I said was that over Christmas of 2003 I was in Damascus, and I spent 2 or 3 days holed up in a hotel with a general, somebody who worked very closely, was a senior general in Saddam's Air Force, and he told me about Abu Ghraib then. And what are you going to do about it? I didn't have videos. I didn't have a report.
Right,
so that's the problem.
So that was my question, is that you said the story was impossible to get to, but you knew it was there. So how many stories are out there that you know of, but you can't write down in the New Yorker?
Well,
because you can't,
there's a million stories that are like that. I mean, you can't. It's not a question of writing down in the New Yorker. It's just, we did a coup. The United States was involved in an overthrow of a foreign government somewhere in the world 6 weeks ago. I probably won't be able to write about it. They got away with it.
And
we overthrew a government. We were involved. The government were bad guys. The people that replaced them aren't much better. There was some ulterior motive. It was somewhere in Africa, and who cares? So there's a lot of things you learn you can't do much about.
How does it feel to know that the system has sort of with your writings, the system has sort of been bucked, like with the My Lai massacre and that anti-weather modification stuff? And,
oh my God, that's all old stuff. How'd you find that one? That was in 1972 for the New York Times. Yeah, it does. I'm not changing the system. I don't have any illusions about it. George Bush is president. He may be weak. He's still got 6,000 nuclear warheads he can order, into downtown wherever we are. Anytime Adelphi. What is the name of the city?
Garden City.
Yeah.
And so then if we have a president,
strange place.
If we have a president that isn't listening, and to
not even beginning to listen.
To whom that words mean nothing, and
right.
that they're just,
right.
they're just being told, then how are we supposed to feel? Because we can't do anything. We can't even be activists.
Yes, you
because
can.
there is nothing to.
There is something. In the next, you're going to have congressional elections. You're going to have new members of the House and Senate. I seriously doubt if the Republicans will win in Louisiana, Mississippi, and the other states, Texas, where there's been an enormous impact because of Katrina. I seriously doubt it, and I seriously doubt as time goes by if any African American or white lower class, working class, or Mexican American is really going to be able to vote in the way to the degree they voted for Bush. I mean, he got an awful lot of support from those communities.
Do you think that voting is fixed in this country?
No, voting is always screwed up. Everything's screwed up. But no, Bush won the second election. He didn't win the first one. It wasn't fixed. I mean, the Republicans did whatever they could to keep people from voting in heavily Democratic districts, and I'm sure the same thing happens. That kind of crap goes on. But it wasn't enough to change the election. Bush won. Kerry lost.